Hello, my name is Amy Brown, and I'm the Director of Events and Education for Trade Press Media Group and FacilitiesNet. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast, Balancing Health and Wellness Throughout Your Healthcare Facility. Our presenters today include Ann Jennings, who's the Senior Commercial Segment Manager for Healthy Spaces at Armstrong Ceiling, and Paul Cannon, Industry Business Leader for Healthcare at Salto Systems. As I mentioned, Ann is the Senior Commercial Segment Manager for Healthy Spaces at Armstrong World Industry, and she leads commercializing of innovative product solutions that create healthier spaces and improve indoor air quality in offices, schools, and healthcare environments. As a graduate of Virginia Polytech Institute and State University and a member of ASHRAE, Jennings is skilled in specification writing, building automation, and energy management. Paul Cannon leads Salto Systems Healthcare Solutions business practice, and his focus is on aligning Salto's innovative access control technology and hardware with the needs of an ever-evolving healthcare industry and the future demands of the next generation of medical facilities. Paul is an access control expert and industry veteran and is passionate about security and safety in the healthcare environment. Today's learning objectives include understanding the benefits of creating environments for patient health and wellness, reviewing how product selection can affect patient recovery and safety, and learning how to create a balance between healthy wellness and safety. Before we get started with today's webcast, I'd like to cover a few details about the event. We do encourage audience questions throughout the webcast, and in fact, we'll have an extended Q&A for the second half of this event. To submit a question, please navigate to the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and type in your questions to ask our subject matter experts. Our panelists will answer as many questions as time permits. And then at the conclusion of today's webcast, you'll also receive a PDF copy of the slides used today, and you'll receive a link to a brief online assessment, where upon successful completion, you'll receive your CEU certificate. Today's webcast will also be archived at facilitiesnet.com/webcast. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Ann.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction, Amy. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to spend a few minutes today to review how ceilings can play a role in healthier spaces. If you're not familiar with Armstrong Ceilings, we are a 160-year-old company with a long history of innovation. The company originally started manufacturing cork bottle stops for soda bottles and transitioned over time to manufacture many products from cork, although the company took a pause during World War I and II to manufacture artillery for the military. Ultimately, the company became well known for ceiling and floor products, probably as you know them today. But many people really don't understand or realize our history and our interest in innovation and market development. Today, Armstrong is working to improve air quality and environmental quality by innovating new ceiling solutions that improve these spaces. As we've been working through new solutions, we're following the recommendations from ASHRAE, the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers. And I do apologize if you are already familiar with that acronym and that organization, but not everyone is. So if I'm going to talk about ASHRAE, I'm going to make sure everyone's familiar with who ASHRAE is. They're certainly the governing body for determining airflow, ventilation rates, and basically how HVAC engineers design our facilities. So Armstrong is certainly leveraging the guidance from ASHRAE and CDC as we make changes related to air quality and improving our spaces. Some of the ways that we're looking to improve our spaces as guided by ASHRAE is to improve or increase ventilation rates within our spaces, whether that's modifying existing spaces or creating additional pressurized spaces. Sort of as a side note, ASHRAE is recommending that K-12 schools start to design their nurses' stations similar to healthcare isolation rooms. Again, just a side note, but quite honestly, a great recommendation that I think is important that we're all aware of. Lastly, we're following ASHRAE's recommendations for improved filtration and further application of UVGI or UVC light for disinfection. Today, we're going to focus on new products which help to improve pressurized spaces within that entity of ASHRAE's recommendations. That's what we're going to focus on today. Through our innovation sprint 2 years ago, Armstrong's R&D team forecast an increased need for pressurized spaces, certainly in healthcare environments, but others as well. For many years, Armstrong has provided a solution for pressurized spaces through the use of gasketed grid and traditional tiles. Today, we're sort of flipping that and offering a revised methodology for providing pressurized spaces by taking what was traditionally the gasket applied to the grid and applying the gasket to the tile. So this is a factory applied gasketed edge applied to a traditional mineral fiber tile. So we can see here there's multiple different solutions and availability, whether it's a tegular edge, a square edge lay-in, and multiple different sizes, of course, 24 by 24 and 24 by 28. And ultimately, this is providing a great opportunity for either renovation in healthcare or renovation in pressurized locations. We've had people ask us to provide the flexibility within their space to take a space that's presently in design that is likely not pressurized today, but the client looking in the future or forward thinking to say, okay, well, today we want to pressurize 1/3 of our facility, but maybe 5 or 10 years from now, as we grow and expand, we may want to pressurize that additional space, whether it's manufacturing space or isolation space, but sort of building ahead of time the opportunity or availability to pressurize a space during the construction process. Some of the details more specifically for the product, realistically, we took our already top performing ceiling tiles and we made them just that much further improved. The AirAssure tiles are part of our 24/7 portfolio and also our total acoustics line, as the tile does provide exceptional NRC and CAC to improve sound absorption and sound blocking. The products are also part of our Sustain portfolio, free of resinless chemicals. The tiles are also resilient to mold and bacteria growth and are part of the Clean Assure line. So they can be cleaned and disinfected without degrading the tile. Additionally, we did send the tiles through certification and we have significant backup data and documentation. So if you're considering using this product or might consider using this product for clean room, class 5 or class 100, we do have the full testing and verification of those capabilities of the product. So again, a great product or solution for pressurized spaces, whether that's healthcare, manufacturing, pharmaceutical, different opportunities, certainly. This is just one clipping of some of the lab test data that we did complete. So I won't go into too much detail, but in general, I think we tested 12 to 14 different products. And basically we built a test rig that compared the traditional tile to the AirAssure gasketed tile. So you can see here on the left-hand side of this table, we tested at 0.02 inches water column pressurization and 0.05 inches water column. So the first test case here shows the leakage rate of a traditional tile. And then moving over to the right, we've got the leakage rate of an AirAssure tile. And lastly, we did additionally test the AirAssure gasketed tile with clips as well to see the determination and the difference between those values as well. So you can see on this example, the Cala Health Zone, the traditional tile was leaking 0.38 CFM per square foot. As we change that out and we use the AirAssure tile, we cut that nearly in half. And then further, if you do add the additional clips, you further reduce the leakage rate and improve the pressurization of the space. So you can see with each of these numbers, we have significant reductions from the traditional tile to the AirAssure tile and reducing this leakage that one would traditionally see through a traditional ceiling grid arrangement. So again, the table on the right, we've got the leakage rate, CFM per square foot, and compared to the pressurization. So we can see the blue line is the traditional tile, and we can see the improved performance of the AirAssure and then the AirAssure with clips as well. I apologize for slides with tons of words. This is, however, important information. We are following, and the product does certify to FGI guidelines for healthcare, as well as ASHRAE standard 170 for ventilation of healthcare facilities. And again, maintaining that pressurization for a negative environment, 0.03 inches water column as well. Additionally, FGI guidelines for cleanability, and also, as I mentioned, ISO classifications as well for ISO class 5 or class 100. As we were working on this product and as we were developing and implementing case studies and solutions, we started to see the opportunity for a potential energy savings in pressurized spaces. Some of the testing that we've done, I'll share in the next 2 slides as it relates to really what we found in our test data and how that affects energy savings. So not only does the product provide additional improved air quality and performance and improving our environmental quality, but additionally has this opportunity to create energy savings as well, which is really not something that we anticipated, but it kind of seemed to be a great benefit that we were not anticipating. So 2 examples. This first one is an example of a 150 square foot room. What we saw was a reduced CFM value. So we could, again, from our lab testing, sort of leading into this and actually testing it within particular specific spaces, what we saw was a reduction in the CFM that we needed to pressurize the space. So in this case, 55 CFM less air to pressurize the space resulted in a 16% less fan energy for this space. So if we extrapolate that to 10 rooms of the same size, we're looking at saving 550 CFM. And again, by saving CFM, we're ultimately going to save energy as well. The second example, we sort of took this 150 square foot room and made it obviously a larger application. So when we expanded it to a larger application, what we found was a 1,000 square foot room. What we needed ideally to pressurize the space again was 364 less CFM. That might not sound like a lot, but ultimately for a 1,000 square foot room, 364 CFM is quite significant. And what we really saw and did the math for was that ultimately results in a 54% less fan energy for this space. So again, if we multiply that out to 10 rooms, we're really looking at 3,640 CFM reduced airflow. So if we're able to pressurize a space with less air, then that's less air we're heating or cooling, or ultimately simply just pushing through the building. So there's a great opportunity also with this product to create energy savings as well. I think I'm actually doing pretty good on time. So we're just about closed up here and I can switch it over to Paul. So the case study example that we have, and obviously we've got multiple, this is the one we chose for this presentation. Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital is a senior living community in Middletown, Delaware. This senior community actually had an isolation room. And unfortunately, what they were finding was over time, they were experiencing more alarms, specifically related to the negative pressurization of this room. So the room continued to go into alarm because they were not maintaining the negative pressurization that was required for the space. The hospital contacted their air balancer and asked, what recommendations would you make, or what solutions can we find, or do we need to do a full HVAC renovation? Do we need to replace the exhaust fan? What are our options? So the air balancer reviewed the facility, reviewed the space specifically. They actually weren't that far off their set point. They were trying to pressurize to negative 0.02 inches water column, and they were at negative 0.018. So they were very close. So instead of doing long-term, big, renovation type changes, which would have taken the room down for several days, the balancer suggested this AirAssure product. He was familiar with Armstrong, even though the product was new. He suggested, hey, let's try this new AirAssure product from Armstrong. They only had to shut the room down for about a half a day. It took 2 gentlemen about 4 hours to take down the existing ceiling tiles and replace it with the AirAssure ceiling tiles. And so really what we see here in this last paragraph is the improvement associated with only replacing the ceiling tiles. That's all they did. Ultimately, they were able to get to this negative 0.0368 inches water column, an 84% improvement from where they were previously. So again, the fact that we've now far exceeded our set point is really, again, showing an opportunity for energy savings, that we're now basically over-ventilating or over-pressurizing the space. And we have an opportunity then to reduce that airflow and get them a little bit closer to that set point without creating the alarm condition that they were seeing. And that is the end of my slides. Amy, I will turn it over to you, dear.
Thank you very much, Anne. Like I mentioned, we'll be doing an extended Q&A on the second half of this presentation. But now I'd like to turn it over to Paul, who will be talking about some access control solutions for healthcare facilities. Paul?
Thanks, everyone, for joining today. I'm excited to be here and share a little bit about my company. My name is Paul Cannon. I'm the healthcare industry leader for Salto Systems. Let me just get to the next slide here. Just a little background about my company. We are the largest privately owned wireless access control company in the world. We are a Spanish headquartered company located in San Sebastian, Spain. We have a U.S. headquarters here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have some satellite offices throughout the country. We were founded in 2001, and right now we're probably looking at 6 million plus electronic locks and devices installed globally. We have a little over 600 total employees as well. So in terms of healthcare, we have 4 focus areas that we like to concentrate on. The top of the list, you'll see keyless. Our goal in a retrofit scenario is to eliminate mechanical keys. We are a credential, and when I say credential, I mean physical credentials can be key cards, mobile devices these days. But our plan is always to eliminate mechanical keys, and having rekeying of facilities is an easier task when it comes to physical credentials. One of the other areas that we focus on is obviously security. We focus on a higher level of security with our software and our electronic devices. We are what we consider a smart technology. We are a scalable enterprise level platform, so both can be working independently as well as integrated to other systems in the facility. And then lastly, hygienic keyless access control. We utilize an antimicrobial process with our products, and I'll get into that a little more. It's called BioCoat. Intelligent access control, smart credentials, visitor management systems. VMS has become prevalent here over the past couple of years. We have the ability to act as a visitor management system as well as integrate with existing VMS systems. Granular level access control. We give, we have full user capabilities that we can give to the facilities people, grandmaster levels to be able to utilize all the functionality at a facility level. And then contagion control, back to BioCoat that I mentioned earlier. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. Some of the areas in your facilities that you might see our type of products. If you see the lock set up, the 2 lock sets up in the top, that's what we call a neo cylinder. So it's what we consider the fastest way to gain access control on a mechanical door without changing out the actual whole lock set. I can take a cylinder that's on a mortise lock set, and I can take this particular lock and insert it into that mechanical opening, and now I can gain access control. So think about areas in your facility where you may need a higher level of access control. We can easily retrofit those areas. You'll see the other lock up here, a cabinet lock, cabinet / locker lock. We have the ability to utilize that product for locking up pharmaceutical supplies, health records, physical health records. That's become a very popular product for us as well. Obviously, patient rooms, we have a mortise and a cylindrical prep lock set that we utilize. Gates, power operators, all sorts of areas where you may not traditionally see access control. We have the ability to supply products in those areas. Specifically to hospitals, you'll see here on the left, this is an ambulance that has one of our Neo cylinders that I just mentioned mounted to the prep. Dual authentication. Some facilities like to have both a credential as well as a keypad on their lock sets. The lock here that you see has the ability to have dual authentication. Nurse stations and medical records cabinets, that's actually a facility right there that has those locker locks installed. And then in-room medical storage areas as well, we can lock those up. Assisted living facilities. We're not just in hospitals. We look at healthcare and at all of its subcategories as different areas of opportunity to be able to help and assist these facilities. So assisted living, office doors, mobile nursing carts, hospital room doors, obviously. If you look at the assisted living facility, we have the ability to track egress as well as ingress. So we can see when a person actually comes in as well as leaves the room. That's a functionality that you may not see out there with, if you're looking at some of our other competitor companies. Frictionless hardware, contactless, very popular these days. We have what's called the Wave reader. You see up here in the right-hand corner. We have the ability to use fobs, wristbands, all sorts of other types of credentials so that you do not actually have to touch the lock when you present the credential to it. So again, just showing you some of our other options on openings. And I mentioned BioCode earlier. We manufacture with this company. We don't own BioCode. We've been working with them for about 20 years. They in the manufacturing process, we embed a silver ion that they make into our machining, and this product actually eliminates and kills microbes and germs. It basically doesn't allow them to reproduce. And over the course of hours, we're getting up to about 99+% of defecation with that product. We talked a little bit about software. We are a fully scalable enterprise level platform. We have the ability to act independently as well as integrate with some of the largest systems in the world. It's not just access control integration. I mentioned earlier about visitor management systems. If are any systems that you have in your facility where you want to integrate with us, we're a fairly open protocol. We can work with you and your IT departments to facilitate that. Some of the integrations that we have right now, this is only a few. Visualon is a large one, Honeywell, Genetec, Johnson Controls, Siemens. These are all some of the larger companies that we deal with. And then mobile credentialing. A couple of years ago, we would have never been talking about utilizing mobile credentials in a healthcare facility. Things are starting to change and migrating to this direction. It's been, in our other verticals that we go to market with, you'll see a lot more utilization of mobile credentials. Healthcare is slowly adapting to this format. I think, as we progress and the patients and clients, demand the usage of these type of devices, we're going to see more and more of mobile usage in healthcare. I know it was pretty quick, but I covered a lot for you guys. I'm going to turn it back over to you now, Ann.
Thank you very much, Paul. And yes, again, that was just kind of a quick overview on our two subject matter experts areas of expertise. And now we'll take questions from the audience. It's a great chance to answer any questions you have. But I've got a few that we'll start off with. Paul, could you talk a little bit about how technology has transformed the healthcare industry and ways software and technology will change it in the coming years?
Absolutely, Amy. Technology is definitely transferred in many different ways. At the patient level, we're seeing it's helped make information more accessible. Patient-centered type of thinking has been driving, many of the technology advancements that we've been seeing implemented into healthcare facilities. The integration of multiple systems, patient medical history, real-time health updates, insurance coverages, all these different things. The ultimate goal is, as I mentioned, about mobile devices, is utilizing that as the primary tool to access that information. The patient experience has become more prevalent in the past few years. So you're going to see, we're going to continue to see the expansion into these newly digitized areas over the coming years.
Perfect. And you talked a little bit about the clean room testing that Armstrong has done with this product. Can you talk a little bit in general about, I think we've seen a lot of companies in the last 2 years put out a lot of claims about different types of, it used to be greenwashing when sustainability, and now it's kind of COVID washing, and everything has some kind of, COVID killing claim or something like that. Can you just talk to our audience about what they should really be looking for as they're kind of selecting products and some of the research that into Armstrong's products?
Yeah, actually, Amy, that's a great question, and people should certainly be cautious as they choose new products for solutions related to air quality, and whether it's COVID today or who knows what else. There are definitely a lot of resources online. ASHRAE is certainly one of them. EPA is actually one of them as well. Things that we look for is really, what is the technology? How long has it been around? Unfortunately, looking for lawsuits is maybe another way to do some background check on other products as well. But it's definitely something to, if you're going to meet with different vendors, do your best to ask them the same questions, ask them about their case studies, how they've performed, and their transparency, realistically, right? How effective are their products, but doing sort of like some of the extra due diligence. But EPA, ASHRAE, and also just, making sure you're doing the research on, what other potential byproducts are they creating, and how long really overall have these products been used in the market.
Perfect. Thank you. And Paul, I'm going to send kind of a similar question. Looks like you guys are definitely exploring some new technology that maybe wasn't as prevalent a few years ago. Any suggestions for the audience on looking at some of those new technologies and helping to understand what's going to be the best for their organization?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we're seeing is, in terms of visitor management systems have become more prevalent, and the usage of, monitoring, or tracking, if you will, who actually visits the healthcare facilities. In the past, maybe there wasn't a heightened awareness as there is now. And I use the word post-COVID, but we're not completely post-COVID yet. But I think as we continue on, those type of systems and the integration of those systems into the traditional, physical access control world are going to become more, we're going to utilize them more as we progress.
Perfect. And just a reminder, if you have questions for either Anne or Paul, please feel free to use the Q&A panel at the bottom of the screen and type in your questions. Paul, we were just kind of talking about, some of the new technology and the increase in digitalization. How can hospitals and other healthcare facilities gain some of the patient's trust when we're using those new technologies they might be unaware of?
I think it's, with any new technology, let's be honest, there's always a resistance, level of resistance with learning, the new technology. I think it's important to have an education plan in place to ease the learning process. So, if I were to discuss that with a facility, I think it would be, okay, how are we going to roll this out? What's going to be involved? How are we going to make it easy for that end user, to adapt to that new technology? But I think, if you can explain in a way that, hey, once you get over this initial hurdle of learning this, it's going to be beneficial for you, once you start utilizing that technology. So I think again, back to my thought would be laying out a good, well thought out education plan.
And on the flip side of that, we're talking about the patients and end users, but some of the either maintenance or facility manager team members that might not be as comfortable with technology. What would you say as we kind of bring some of them that are used to the key, the 1,000 keys around their waist?
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great question. And there's, I think once, and we get that a lot. When you're used to, using something for so long, and then you introduce something new, in this way, and it's, there's a resistance to it. But I think once you explain and show, like, hey, this is actually going to make your life easier by migrating to this technology, and it's going to help your, maybe your specific job in that organization, make things easier for you by adapting to that technology. Once they get over that initial learning curve, again, back to the education piece, I think, in my experience, it's always worked out very well for them.
Perfect. And one question specific about the ceiling tile product you talked about. What kind of requirements, if it's a renovation, what kind of requirements are needed to renovate a ceiling? Is it a specific drop ceiling that needs to be there?
Probably the initial conditions, certainly if they have a grid that's already existing in place, that makes things much faster and easier. The nice thing about the product is it does renovate or retrofit into existing grids. So whether it's 2x4 or 4x4, it's going to save the client potentially labor costs, because they're not going to have to take the ceiling down and put it back up, but also material costs as well. Certainly, as we're seeing prices increase, it's going to save them their steel costs by being able to reuse that grid.
Perfect. And do you need hold down clips for any of the gasket ceiling tiles with this product?
That's a good question. And certainly one of the things we get a lot of feedback from our facilities manager types is you do not need hold down clips. So the scientists pressurized the chamber to 0.09 inches water column, which is almost double most of our requirements for pressurized spaces. So there are some applications where someone may choose to use the hold down clips. I think in like cafeteria or school locations or gymnasiums where they're throwing balls around or something, you might still want to use hold down clips. There's a couple other specific locations or specific applications where you would want to. But in general, facility managers love the fact that no, you do not need to hold down clips because those tend to be a little bit of a problem item for them.
Perfect. And this is a question for both of you. A lot of facility managers are seeing supply chain issues with long lead times and things like that. Do either of you know what kind of lead time right now your products are experiencing? If there's any, is this something that they would need to be programming for end of 2022, beginning of 2023?
I'll go first, Paul, unless you want
to. Go ahead, yeah, go ahead. I was waiting. We're both looking at each other.
I'm sure that we are in some aspects having supply chain just like everybody else is. I don't think it's impacting us in a significant way. We're working with our material providers at all times to make sure that we're mitigating that as much as we can. The products that we've talked about today, I'm not aware of any traditionally longer than normal. I mean, the construction process is quite long for building a building. So we typically still don't have any true concerns with meeting demands.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would say ditto, but I think that's a little too short. We're definitely, we've been impacted, with the supply chain as everyone else in the world, but we made some modifications to how we've been doing things, and I would say that we've cut down on the extended lead times. So we're still within a slightly longer lead time than normal for our products, but we're ramping up and making the modifications, so that we've been able to get back on track. And I think we're in pretty good shape right now.
Perfect. It's good to hear. Some of these lead times, when they're 12 months, 18 months, can be frustrating for our facility managers when they're trying to get these projects and initiatives off the ground. So,
For sure.
one of the key reasons for any healthcare facility is to help the patients, become healthier, become better, heal. What can both of you kind of talk about product selections and design in terms of, making it a healthy and well environment and then in conjunction with that, keeping it, so keeping it a well-designed building, but also keeping it a healthy building. Maybe, Anne, this is a little bit more towards you, kind of how the product selections can impact the overall design and environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been very impressed. I'm somewhat new with Armstrong, but I love our sustainability story. I love our recycling program. There is more and more interest in, how do I build a healthy building? How do I build a environmentally responsible building? And really the thing that we express upon our whether it's our A&D firms that we work with or clients that we work with. And again, really going back to your first question, is look for transparency. Look for people that are reporting, and whether it's ceiling tiles or anything else that you put in your building, people are beginning to report, what are the materials manufactured from? Do they include red list chemicals? What are the declaration pages saying? And, again, where is that transparency and where is that willingness to provide products and promote solutions that do benefit our earth and our air quality, and the things that people today are looking for more than they were before.
Perfect. And Paul, I'll kind of throw it over to you on the safety side. How do we kind of create a well environment while keeping the environment safe for our audience?
Yeah. So, one of the things I mentioned was BioCoat, that we manufacture with BioCoat. We talk about physical security. We've been, working with this company, like I said, for 20 years. And, so we add another layer of security for the patient and the facilities, people that work in these facilities, by embedding this material. That's not, we didn't, just jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, we've been doing this for a long time. So, we like to pride ourselves on giving that added layer of security, not just the physical security that we're talking about with the lock set itself. So, we're happy to continue to do that.
Perfect. And then Paul, what would your kind of response be to someone who says, they don't like locks all around the hospital, and why do we need to keep so much, lock and key? How do you kind of balance that environment where, you want to make sure things are secure and areas are secure without providing a locked down environment approach? Yeah,
no, it's a great question. I have some pictures, obviously, on the deck of our locks. They're aesthetically pleasing, if we want to use that term. Our readers come in white and black. We obviously like to talk about white, the cleanliness of white in healthcare environments. We have many different lever finishes, and we don't want an environment to look so institutionalized with our products. We like to work with the designers and architects to say, okay, we have these type of doors, what's the best looking lock to actually, adapt to that product. We have what are called sectional trim lock sets too, where, you don't see all of the material on the lock. It's just the reader and then the lever. So it doesn't look so, traditional, if you will. So yeah, that's something that's going to continue to evolve as well. There's going to be less and less stuff on the door itself, and then it's going to be minimalistic.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that'll help with the overall appearance.
Sure.
Paul, can you talk about important tasks and why it's important to perform routine maintenance on some of the software and technology?
Yeah, I mean, that's like basic 101 stuff. You want to make sure that that the revs, the new releases to softwares, are updated. Just from a cybersecurity standpoint, those things are very important to make those routine updates. Make sure the licenses are all updated with these platforms that you have. A lot of those. I've been involved with many facilities that don't, do that. And, you don't want a virus to come in because of something that you could have, avoided. So I would say just, do at the very least, make sure you're up to date with the revs on those software platforms.
Perfect. And Anne, over to you. Is there any type of upkeep or maintenance required with the ceiling tiles? Or just overall switch out how often?
Yeah, I think probably the perspective from ceilings related to that is, I think the thing that we've seen over the past 2 years is people are cleaning ceilings more than they were before, which is a change. So we've done a lot of, we actually went back and did a lot of product testing and recommendations on what solutions our clients should be using to clean their ceiling tiles. So that's certainly one change. And obviously, nobody likes a stained ceiling tile if you've got something happening sort of in the plenum space, making sure we're upkeeping that. And certainly we're very involved with acoustics. So people being aware of the fact that if they have, quite honestly, an acoustical issue or a sound issue in their space, looking to the ceilings as a solution for that as a problem as well.
Perfect. Well, I think that actually brings up the end of our questions for today. I'll give you both a chance to give last final thoughts to our audience. Again, this will be archived at facilitiesnet.com/webcast as well. But Anne, I'll let you go ahead first and give final thoughts for our audience.
Okay, great. Well, greatly thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody. I think final closing points are sort of things have obviously been very different in our worlds for the past 2 years. And my background is certainly in building automation, environmental control. And I think in a good way, it's caused a lot of awareness in people that probably were not previously involved with air quality or temperature or humidity or CO2. And it's really created this great opportunity across the board for people to have more knowledge and more visibility about what that means and what solutions can be brought to everyday solutions or everyday environments to do something different and cause a lot more visibility and interest in either school teachers or parents to have more vested in the air quality that we have within our spaces.
Perfect. And Paul, any final thoughts for the audience?
Yeah, thanks again for everyone that joined today. It's an exciting time for my type of technology in this world. It's been a rough couple of years, as we know, in healthcare. But I think it's opened a lot of doors, to Anne's point, for conversations with newer technology that you would not have seen in the healthcare world. So it's been a positive thing, from the physical access control, standpoint for us. And I think, things are going to continue to evolve, cellular, everyone carries a cell phone, people, have smart watches. So you're going to see more and more of that technology starting to advance in this world. I think it's very exciting. I think it's been a long time coming, and it's the next 5 years or so we're going to see some big changes. I feel in this world, so I'm excited about them. And if anyone, I'll plug my company one more time. We're if anyone is in the Las Vegas area, we're at ISC West here. We have a booth. We'll be here till Friday. So if anyone is out this way and wants to attend, I'll be here. And I'd love to have a more in-depth conversation with you all.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you both, Ann and Paul, and thank you to Armstrong and Salto Systems for sponsoring today's webinar. Again, we'll be sending up a follow-up email with your link to take your CEU assessment for today's event, and it'll also be archived at facilitynet.com/webcast. Thank you again, and thank you for all the facility managers out there keeping our healthcare facilities safe and secure and creating clean and healthy environments. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we'll see you again at a future Facilities Net webcast. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.